let's start with Eintracht Frankfurt. I'm a little lost for words when it comes to Frankfurt. I really don't know what to think about them anymore. Um, I best described it as that 6-4 against Gladbach was them 90 minutes in a nutshell. And then if you go when you look at the two Champions League performances, the 180 minutes that they've played so far, they won the first one against the Galatasaray 5-1. The same Galatasaray side, by the way, that beat Liverpool yesterday 1-0. So this isn't like they beat a bunch of farmers from Turkey. They actually, this is a good team. And then they go to Madrid to play Atletico. Fair enough, Atletico also beat Real Madrid 5-2 on the weekend, right? So this is a really good team, but they lose to them 5-1. And I feel like this is kind of where we're at. There's a really great roller coaster at the Oktoberfest, which is timely, right? Because it's Oktoberfest time in Munich at the moment, where it not only goes up and down, but it also has 5 loopings. And I kind of feel like that roller coaster best describes where Eintracht Frankfurt are at right now. An up and down doesn't quite fit it. It's an up and down with loopings.
Yeah. They're an absolute basket case for a club at the moment in time, and I really don't know where I stand on them right now. I mean, I wasn't as kind of optimistic as you were at the start of the season, but by no means did I think they'd struggle. I thought they'd be absolutely fine, and I thought if they didn't finish top 4, then it'd be very tight between them and some of the other clubs in the league. But from what we saw last night, it was just proper comical amateur defending. I obviously go on about Robin Koch all the time on this show. I don't think he's good enough for Frankfurt. I don't think he's good enough for the Champions League. I think he showed that in this game and very clearly in one-on-one situations. But by no means is he the only one, Manu. I think we also have to talk about Thiat as well, the Belgian defender, who is just having the absolute worst start to the season. He just continues to make for problems after problems after problems, and I think Frankfurt are really struggling from the fact that they obviously sold Tuta, who was a very solid defender. I was just checking before we started recording there. He was second in Frankfurt's team last season for tackles and interceptions. Had one of the best tackle percentage wins, far better than, the percentage of tackles that he won was 70%. Arthur Thiat was at 50%. Robin Koch was at 45%. So Tuta was the guy who did the one-on-one defending, and he did it really well. He's moved on, and Toppmöller's now relying on Robin Koch and Arthur Thiat, and maybe they work together as a system. Maybe they all worked because they all had different attributes, and I can understand that. Obviously, Robin Koch's got a strong leadership role in that team. I think Arthur Thiat's a really good technical player. He can run with the ball. He can pass with the ball. He's great at kind of getting the ball up the pitch. His kind of through balls, I think, is actually really underrated, and I think that's kind of why I rate him. And I remember asking one of my colleagues at Transfermarkt about why Frankfurt were able to sign him, because it was actually for very little money. They signed him for like 30 million euros. And he was like, "Oh, I don't actually know why Ron let him go for so much little money." But I think we're beginning to see why, because he's obviously very good going forward, but if you get him one-on-one, he's still got a lot to learn as a defender. And we saw that in this game quite a few times, to be perfectly honest with you. And like I said after the game last night on social media, that's now 19 goals that Frankfurt have conceded in 8 games. And I kind of made a joke in our subscriber chat that conceding 4 goals to Gladbach is a sackable offence. But Manu, if Toppmöller can't fix this, I think Frankfurt might be in trouble. I know you kind of say it's Jekyll and Hyde, and I do agree with you. They're still picking up points, but if you consider the teams that they've actually played this season, right? Werder Bremen, not up to much. Still conceded a goal there. Hoffenheim, not up to much. Still conceded a goal there. They lost to Leverkusen when they were in the middle of their turmoil. Obviously, it was the first game for the new head coach. I thought Leverkusen played well that night, but they tore Frankfurt apart really easily. Frankfurt conceded 3 goals in that game. They conceded a goal to Galatasaray, who, as you said, beat Liverpool, but Galatasaray didn't have Osman playing that night, which is a huge difference. He missed that game. They then dropped 4 goals to Union Berlin, 4 goals to Gladbach, and now 5 goals to Atletico Madrid. And what I'm worried about is that, as I said in that social media post, I said, of all those teams they've played, I'd say they've only really played 2 decent teams, and they've still managed to concede 19 goals. And then you look at who they've got coming up next: Bayern, Freiburg, Liverpool, St. Pauli, who are no pushovers, then Dortmund. And then that gets them up to the 1st of November. And I think it's going to be a really, really difficult month for Toppmöller and Frankfurt unless they can find a way to turn things around, make some dramatic shift in tactics. And to be fair to Manu, I think they can do that because people might forget that when Toppmöller first came into Frankfurt, his first success with the club was playing as a very, very defensive team. And then he kind of elaborated on that when he got better players in attacking positions. But I think he might have to go back to basics here, wipe the slate clean. If this was like that scene in that movie, Remember the Titans, where they're all standing on the field in Gettysburg or something, he's like, we have to come together now or we'll fall apart, as individuals or something like that. I can't remember what the scene was like in the movie. But I think it's a major problem.
I think it's also a major problem because, and I think the bosses at Frankfurt, they really did a good job of kind of categorizing this defeat. Both Dino Toppmöller and director of sport Markus Krösche spoke to media after the game. And I'm paraphrasing and translating here, right? But like they both said, okay, look, it's Atletico Madrid. They're a very good team. They are further than we are as a team. They have more quality in their team. And I mean, this was highlighted in Madrid's Atletico's win over Real Madrid last weekend, right? But I think at the same time, and this was Dino Toppmöller said, like, yeah, okay, they're a way better team than we are, but we lack the intensity and we lack the pressure in too many situations to really challenge them, right? So I paraphrase and translate, and I say I think what he's saying here is like, okay, it's okay to lose to them, but to lose 5-1 it isn't the way to go. And I think this is one of those things that I think the worrying thing here is that this also goes back to the game against Gladbach, right, where they were so very excellent in the first half, and then in the second half, just the intensity they completely took the foot off the pedal. And I've seen this now in a few games, and I'm also in agreement with you that back line worries me quite a bit because, I think Robin Koch is a decent Bundesliga defender, but he needs to be paired with someone who's a bit more, he kind of needs like a Schlotterberg guy next to him, right? Not saying Nick Schlotterberg is coming to Frankfurt, but like you're someone like him, right? You always have like the solid guy, and you have the guy who can actually play football. And I think that is completely lacking because I think they have this vision that Theate could be this ball-carrying defensive playmaker, and it's just not working at all. There's too many individual mistakes in his build-up play. There's too many times where he goes forward and it's the wrong decision, and maybe that's still going to come. Personally, I'm not that convinced. Tuta was a great defender. He's a guy that I think they're missing, but I think I would have also liked them to maybe add another defender in the summer. It's a typical scenario where you have a ton of talent up front, right? You have several players, and we've been talking on the show about Can Uzun and the things that he's been doing and how great of a player he is and what a wonderful talent. And of course, Burkhardt is one of the emerging number 9s in German football, and Ritsu Doan is a great player, and then you have players that can come from the bench, and but I don't really see that depth in defense at the moment, and that is I think my takeaway from the last few weeks, that Markus Krösche and Timo Hardung, who do oversee the transfers, don't often make mistakes, but I think there's an oversight right there. And I guess at this stage, you have to get there until Christmas somehow, and then maybe add. But I think that would be the number one thing that I would add at the moment. They need more players that in high pressure situations can just shut down a game, right? It's okay to lose to Athletic Madrid in Madrid, but 5-1 is extreme. And it isn't just that this was like, Atletico had like a few good chances and they scored. The XG, when I look at the data of this match, and this is from Kicker, All right. I know that XG always looks very different depending on the source that you use. Atletico Madrid's XG was 4.44. Like this isn't like, oh yeah, they scored 5 goals, but it really should have been like 3. It's like, no, like they were good for their 5 goals, right?
Yeah. I think, there's a few things that still have to happen. Like Götze still hasn't really came back. I keep calling Sebastian Larsen. Hugo Larsen hasn't came back yet properly. He's only had like 2 starts, I think, so far this season. Came on for like 30 minutes in this game. But yeah, you're absolutely right. That defense, they're falling back on average defenders, I think. They've got like a second or third string goalkeeper between the posts. It's just not good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to have to do something. Like I said, they're going to have to find out something. And maybe it's not just about the actual defenders. Maybe it's about the midfielders who aren't tracking. Maybe they're being a little too attacking. But it is crazy that despite everything that happened in the summer, and I know they lost Tuta, who's a big sale, but everyone was saying how they're going to score goals without Hugo Kitike, without Omar Marmoush, who left in January. But they're scoring goals absolutely fine. Burkhardt's got a great goal last night. And as you said, Chanuzun is just kind of going on leaps and bounds. God knows where they'd be without his goals right now, I'll tell you that much as well. But they have no problem scoring goals, but they do need to kind of recalibrate. You can tell that Toppmöller's still trying to kind of wrestle control of this squad that he's kind of been left with after that summer transfer window. And that happens in the Bundesliga all the time, Manu. And Frankfurt are one of the clubs that probably will be gifted some degree of patience and time because they're not under any real immediate pressure from like the bottom half of the table. And if they finish outside the top 4, it's not really the end of the world. I don't really think Toppmöller is going to lose his job. Although the club have spoken about wanting to be in the top 4. Toppmöller said that himself. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, it definitely feels like it's going to be a tricky transition season. And like I said, got a difficult October coming up. They've also just got a really difficult run of Champions League games in general. I think we talked about this in a show recently, but they've definitely got one of the hardest run of games. So it'll be interesting to see if Toppmöller will be given the time to try and fix things in that difficult run, and they'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say, well, look, he was playing Bayern, he was playing Liverpool, he was playing Dortmund. Or if this really intense run of big game after big game after big game will actually get in the way of him actually doing anything, and they'll still be stuck. Because you see head coaches all the time say when they play in Europe, there's just no time to actually work in a training ground on things because it's weekend game midweek, and there's no time to actually progress your tactics, to change your selection, to change your formation. So they might kind of be stuck in this kind of rut for a while now. But we'll see. We need to see if they can turn it around.
Well, I think it's also interesting that now the game against Bayern comes up, right? And then you're in an international break for 2 weeks. And in the past, that would have been just fine for Frankfurt, but now most of the team goes away to national teams, right? Namandi Collins is now a national team player. We expect that Nathaniel Brown is going to be called up soon to Germany as well. Robin Koch, not a starter for Germany, but he's always there, right? You look at all the other ones, Can Uzun, still representing Turkey, although there is some noises that maybe the DFB is going to give it one more run. Doan plays for Japan. Ansgar Knauf, he's a candidate for Germany. So most of this team is gone. So, Dino is going to sit there in the training pitch trying to fix things after the Bayern game with 5 guys. It's not going to work, right? So, and that is the other tough thing. Like the better you get as a team, unfortunately, also means that your players are getting called up and then they're gone. You're trying to work with them, and so that's the luxury of getting better, right? And I think Grösche put that really well, saying is Atletico Madrid are not like they are our ceiling for now, right? But it's so hard to break through the ceiling at the moment because, you have so many games back to back to back. And then even when you are, so, quote unquote, have a break, those players are gone as well to represent their respective countries. And so that makes it all extremely difficult for them. And I think that the shortcomings on the transfer window also don't help. Having said all of that, this team is such an oddity, and their performances are so weird and all over the place that I'm not sure that Bayern Munich should be counting the chickens quite yet for next Saturday. When I'm going up to Frankfurt on Saturday morning to catch this game in on location, live on location. So I'm really looking forward to it because I think it's a real Topspiel. But I don't think Bayern Munich should be going there and expect this Frankfurt team to play like they did against Atletico, because we've seen in other games that they can be a completely different side as well.
Yeah, they can. Although I must say their record in big games is pretty atrocious under Toppmöller. So I wouldn't be expecting them to pull up any tree trunks against Bayern.
The last time I did Bayern against Frankfurt in Frankfurt won 5-1.
Yeah, that's actually weird. Do you know the weird thing is his record in the big games against like the so-called top four isn't great, but there's like odd results like that, which you point out is obviously true.